I want you to imagine a late afternoon in New York. Outside, Wall Street is still glowing. Ticker screens flashing nonstop, numbers rising and falling like the heartbeat of the entire economy. People keep saying investing is the surest way to get rich. But after more than 20 years in finance, I can tell you something few dare to admit. Most investors never actually get rich. They're just chasing a dream that's been retold too many times. I've seen thousands of people rush into the market as if it were their ticket out of the modern-day grind. Debt, inflation, rising housing costs, vanishing savings. They hear a friend brag, "I just made $5,000 in a week," and think they can do the same. But those same people months later fall silent. They stop talking about the market because they've lost money, not because they were foolish, but because the market today no longer reflects reality. In the past, stock prices went up because companies perform well. Today, prices rise because the crowd believes they will. Tesla, Apple, Nvidia, the names everyone talks about, have doubled or even tripled in value in a short time. Not because their profits have tripled, but because investors got caught up in a game of emotion. They don't want to miss out. They're afraid of being late, and that's exactly when bubbles begin to form. When I was a young financial advisor, I used to believe the market was fair, that if you were patient, saved regularly, and invested wisely, you would always win. But 2008 shattered that belief forever. I sat with people who lost everything in a matter of weeks, people who thought they were safe because their portfolios had both stocks and bonds. Then came the crash, and everything fell together. Decades of savings vanished in days, and if you pay attention, the same pattern is repeating. Stock prices are at record highs, but most of that growth comes from just a handful of giant companies. The rest of the market is struggling, like a house standing on four fragile pillars. People see the bright picture on the surface, but miss the cracks spreading underneath. The truth is, we no longer invest out of understanding. We invest out of fear. We don't buy because we believe in value. We buy because someone online told us, if you don't buy today, you'll regret it tomorrow. That's the biggest trap of our era. The fear of missing out has become a collective addiction. I once told a group of economics students, the market doesn't need to be smarter than you. It just needs to be more patient. And that's the truth, because the stock market isn't just a game of money, it's a psychological battle. It rewards discipline and punishes emotion. The stock market isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, transferring wealth from the undisciplined to those who understand the rules. And if you don't see that, you'll become part of that transfer. Not the one who gains, but the one who loses. So before you invest another dollar, stop and ask yourself, are you investing because you understand or because you hope? Because in this world, hope is the most expensive thing you can buy. You know, what worries me most isn't that the market is too high. It's that everyone believes it can't fall. I've heard this same line over and over. In 1999, in 2007, and now again in 2025. The U.S. market always recovers. Sure, that's true, until the moment you need your cash before it does. I remember a couple I advised back in 2022. They'd been saving for 30 years and believed they had done everything right. Consistent investing, diversification, avoiding hype. But then inflation soared, living costs spiked, and they had to start dipping into their retirement early just to get by. When the market dropped, their $400,000 account fell to $300,000. They didn't panic. They were just tired. And that's the most dangerous part. Not losing all your money overnight, but slowly losing your faith in the system. In recent years, more Americans have started investing with debt. It's no longer just margin loans. Now it's credit cards, personal loans, even home equity lines. They're not doing it out of greed. They're doing it out of desperation. When money loses value, when wages stagnate, when everything costs more, people look to the market as their last escape. But investing out of fear is no different from gambling in a casino. Except here, the house never loses. I still remember early at 2021 when millions of Americans opened their first Robinhood accounts. People were talking about financial freedom, a new generation of investors, the democratization of finance. But a year later, most of them quietly deleted the app. They didn't lose everything, but they lost something far more valuable, their belief that the market was fair. And have you noticed something strange? Every time retail investors panic and sell, the big funds start buying. They call it portfolio rebalancing, but in truth, it's a silent transfer of wealth. The rich don't need to predict the future. They just wait for you to panic. Because in finance, the fear of the crowd is the opportunity of the few. I once sat in a meeting with a veteran fund manager who said something I'll never forget. The market doesn't reward those who are right. It rewards those who survive the longest. And that's the essence of the game. The market doesn't care how smart you are. It only cares who can stay patient, who can endure longer. When you invest with borrowed money, with emotion, with fear of missing out, you're playing a game where the odds are nearly zero. I know this might sound pessimistic, but in truth, this is the most important time to stay clear-headed. Don't fall for headlines that say, the market has recovered, or now is the golden time to buy. The market is not your friend. It doesn't care about your retirement dreams or whether you're just trying to survive. It does one thing and one thing only. It takes money from the undisciplined and gives it to those who understand the rules. And if you ask me, the best thing you can do right now isn't to run away from the market. It's to learn how to see through it. Because once you understand how the game truly works, you won't be swallowed by it. You'll start to move with the waves instead of being pulled under by them. I want you to picture this. One morning, you turn on the news and everything seems normal. The market is just correcting a little, as they like to say. But a few weeks later, small headlines start popping up. Investment fund faces liquidity issues. Regional bank under stress. Major tech company announces mass layoffs. At first, everyone thinks it's isolated. But I lived through 2008, and I know this. Every collapse begins with things that seem small. We're living in an economy built on hope. Hope that interest rates will soon fall. Hope that inflation will disappear. Hope that the stock market will push through it all. But here's what few want to admit. Hope is not a strategy. Look at the real numbers. Credit card debt is at record highs. Personal savings are at their lowest in over a decade. And millions of people are living on money they haven't even earned yet. That's not strength. That's financial exhaustion. And when consumers are exhausted, businesses begin to fall too. Many of the companies we once thought were too strong to fail are now zombie corporations, staying alive not through profit, but through debt. And when borrowing stays expensive, those zombies eventually collapse. And when they fall, they take the system down with them. People often ask me, are we heading toward another crisis? I don't like the word crisis. I call it the great redistribution, because money doesn't disappear. It simply moves from the hands of those who don't understand to those who know how to wait. In every downturn, millions lose everything, while a few become incredibly wealthy. Not because they're luckier, but because they can read the signals. They know when the market is whispering a warning. If you look closely, you can already see the small chaos spreading. Stocks go up, then down, then up again, for no clear reason. Good news sends the market falling. Bad news sends it rising. That's not logic. That's engineered confusion. Because when everything becomes too complex, people stop thinking. They follow the crowd. They follow emotion. They trust that someone else must know what they're doing. But the truth is, no one does. And that's when the system begins to tighten, quietly, gradually, like a storm forming under a clear blue sky. I know this sounds unsettling, but I'm not saying it to scare you. I'm saying it because I want you to stay awake before it's too late. When the market crashes, it doesn't just take your money. It takes your confidence, your hope, and the years you spent trying to live responsibly. And the cruelest part? It always happens when you least expect it. I've seen people lose everything in just 48 hours, not because they were foolish, but because they believed everything will be fine. But in finance, it'll be fine are the two most expensive words you can say. So if there's one thing I want you to remember today, it's this. Know when to stand still. Don't let emotion make your decisions. The market will always exist, but your future can't always afford another gamble. This final part, I want you to listen to it slowly, because it's not just the ending of a video. It might be a reminder for all of us who are living through one of the most unpredictable times in global economic history. In economics, as in life, every cycle exists for a reason. There are times of growth, times of pause, and times when everything seems to fall apart. But no collapse exists only to destroy. Every downturn quietly cleanses, stripping away illusions and leaving behind what's real. And that truth applies to people too. A crisis doesn't define you. How you respond to it does. Some see despair, others see opportunity. And you and the one listening right now might be part of a new generation that understands this. No one can control the storm, but everyone can learn to navigate through it. I once lost almost everything in a market crash, but I also found myself because of it, because I realized money can disappear, assets can vanish, but knowledge, discipline, and belief in true value, no one can take those from you. And that understanding is what helped me come back, stronger, clearer, and more grounded. So if you're hearing this and feeling anxious about the future, remember this. Every crisis creates great people, not because they're smarter, but because they don't give up. They study, they wait, they keep moving forward when everyone else wants to stop. If this video made you think, made you pause and reflect on how you live, invest, and face reality, leave me a comment below. I want to hear your story, because it's those honest human conversations that help us understand each other and move forward together. And if you found value in what I shared today, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Not for the YouTube algorithm, but because every week I sit down with a cup of coffee and share real stories about the economy, about work, and about people, so we can all learn how to stand firm in a world that never stops changing. In every storm, some lose their direction, but others find their way to the open sea.